I'm going to hand straight over to them to kick us off. I won't waste any more time.
Hiya, yeah, it's me at first. So I'm Barney from Bluebell Digital. Together with Katie, we're going to take you through how to get new business leads from online marketing. I think we both share the sentiment that obviously it's quite a big topic for a short amount of time, so we're going to be very much kind of top level. Obviously, you can speak to us at any time for any deeper understanding of anything we talk about. I'm going to talk about some links during my presentation. I'm going to share those links in a document afterwards, so don't feel you have to write them down. And we'll have some questions, so please think of some questions, because otherwise we'll look really silly and I will be embarrassed. Right, here we go. Share my screen. Can you see my screen? Thumbs up, good. Okay, brilliant. I'll get started then. So, digital marketing. So, first slide. Helps if I click on it. Right, here we go. So yeah, first slide, just to tell you a little bit about Bluebell Digital and myself. So I've been running this business for the last 7 years. You might notice there's some lovely sunny pictures of California on the left. That's Google's headquarters in Mountain View. I used to work for Google. I worked for Google for 7 years as well, before I set up my business. And I've been in the industry probably for about 20 years. I worked for another company called LookSmart before that, which you probably won't have heard of. But for my sins, I've been doing this quite a long time. Great place to visit. You can visit it if you want to, just head down there or wander around the campus. It's a bit like a university. You can see the bike there. There's loads of free bikes where you can just go around and cycle to meetings. What I didn't appreciate when I went there was that everything was about 2 miles apart. So if you've got a meeting at 11 o'clock and it's 10:57, then you better hurry, because it's quite a long way potentially to that meeting. Just down the right, these are all the things that we do at Bluebell Digital, all the typical things you might expect. PPC, obviously Google stuff, social media management, advertising, copywriting, etc. But we won't dwell on that too much. So to kick off with, I'm just going to go through a number of different things. All of the things are, I would say, fairly actionable. So I've tried to do things which I think you could, potentially do yourself. They're fairly straightforward, as I say, kind of top level advice. Starting off here really with Google My Business. I think a lot of you hopefully would have heard of this. It's what you use to kind of place your business on Google, place your business on Google Maps, sort of establish a local presence for you. It's the place you would go to kind of set up that presence and kind of register your business, I suppose, with Google. That can be anything from a shop to an office-based business. It doesn't necessarily just have to be a restaurant. This is where you control how you appear on Google Maps, which is obviously kind of very, very crucial, especially if you are a local business. You want people to find you naturally, literally find directions, but also find details of your business, phone number, website, what you do. There'll be some reviews on there as well. So as we all know, reviews are really, really important in this day and age, whether it's kind of TripAdvisor or Google reviews or reviews on Amazon or wherever you go. People do pay a lot of attention to reviews. So obviously that's a good thing to have. Hopefully, you'll get mainly positive feedback. I think the trick really with this, and what I've put on the slide, is an example from Bluebell Digital. But the key thing really, it's fairly straightforward. It's just to fill out as much detail as possible. Really, you can't really put too much detail. So just put everything you can about your business, opening times, all your skills, experience, photos. Just make that profile as full as possible, because this is what Google is going to use, to find your business. When people are searching for keywords, potentially it's picking up some of these keywords and they're finding you on the map. That can be a real good driver for people to visit you if you're a kind of public business that people can visit, or people just to find out about you if they're going to call you or contact you, through the web itself. You can also do things, Google's kind of updated this over time, so make it a bit more like social media. So you can do updates, you can do your sort of latest offer, your latest details or news about your company. That's a really good thing to do. Keep it fresh, show people that, kind of open for business. And one of the things you'll see there at the moment is you can put some COVID-19 advice on your business. Obviously, that's quite important at the moment. If you might have been shut for a while, or you're opening up, or you need people to wear PPE or whatever. So you can put all that in there. People know all about that. Also reviews, I mentioned reviews already. So, reviews are crucial. This is where your reviews for Google anyway will be housed. And you can share your review link on social media, for example, get more reviews. Obviously that again helps to build a positive presence on the internet and attracts people to your business when they're checking you out. The thing about digital is people are going to check you out online. They are going to look at your website. They may be looking practically to find you on Google Maps, might be looking to find out a bit more about you on Google Maps using their phones, etc. So, create a really good profile there. It's totally free. Everyone can walk away from this meeting today and set it up or improve what they've got already. Look at it regularly as well. Don't just leave it because things go out of date. You may not realize. I'm going to talk a lot about Google. Google's the biggest player in this space. That's not just because I used to work there that I talk about them, but also, once you've done this for Google, I would prioritize that. But then I'd move on to Apple Maps and Microsoft Maps as well. They both have really good products in the same space. They're not going to have quite as high usage potentially, but obviously it's good to have a good presence there as well. Apple Maps probably being maybe slightly more important than Microsoft Maps. But yeah, get your presence in all these places. Again, it's just a little bit of effort. It's free to do, so why not kind of sort that out and get your presence there as good as possible, because it is the front. It's kind of front window, I should say, rather than front door to your business. So just as you would like to have if you're a shop, really nice window display, well, make sure your internet window display is equally cultured and lovely. Next up in this whistle-stop tour of digital marketing, so Google Ads. I imagine a lot of you, kind of know what Google Ads are. I know we've got some other marketing companies in the room that will obviously know all about this. It's just really a very, very simple way, to get your business in front of people. Obviously, it's advertising, it's paid, it's not free like the last option. Google dominates the search engine landscape. It typically has anywhere from 80 to 90% share of most country markets. So it's a huge player. It is the biggest player. In this country, Google doesn't release these figures obviously because it's quite concerned about being seen as a monopoly. It used to tell us this stuff when I first worked at Google, but they soon stopped doing that because they realized it wasn't a good idea. Yes, it's like 85 to 90%, I would say, in the UK. Microsoft being about 10% of the rest, and a few other players, some small players you might know, like Ecosia and those other DuckDuckGo, and some other kind of growing search engines really focused on privacy. Some other countries do have other search engines. Other search engines are available. So in Russia and China, for example, you have Yandex and you have other kind of local players, which are the number ones. And in some other markets like Japan or South Korea, you have quite big rivals to Google. Google doesn't have all this same sort of massive slice of the pie that it has across Europe. But in Europe, Google really is, by far the biggest player for most European countries. In terms of PPC or pay-per-click, Google is the first and only place that a lot of people go to advertise on pay-per-click, mainly because, especially for small businesses, it is the biggest player. If it's having kind of 80, 90% share, you can imagine you might as well go there for your first kind of efforts. Bigger companies will often also advertise on Bing or Microsoft Ad Center as it's known now. That's because they want to get extra reach. They might be kind of maxed out with their budgets on Google. I want some extra reach from Microsoft, and it might have a slightly different audience potentially as well sometimes, perform slightly different to Google. I'm going to use an example of a local business of accountants quite often in the presentation, just because it's fun to do. Yeah, just to show you really, I guess a lot of your businesses probably are B2B businesses. I know we've got all sorts of different types of businesses here. Just to go through the page a little bit, in my example, I'm pointing at it, but you can't really see that. But we have Sussex Accountants as the search. So as you can imagine, you've got at the top of the page, we've got ads. So these are the ads that Google that you pay for if you do a PPC campaign. So you've got Bognor Regis Accountants there. You've got sort of cloud accounting being promoted by Honey Barrett in the second result. And you've got various other accountants going down. So you've got like 4 results there at the top of the screen. Those are all paid for. So if this was a live thing and I clicked through, I'd be costing Bognor Regis Accountants 50p, £1, £2. So don't do that. Don't click on other people's ads unless you're going to buy. That's what I suggest. And definitely don't do it if you're a competitor, because that's very, very fraudulent. I would definitely not encourage that. Going below that, you have what you might call the organic or natural results, starting with SJF Accountants. So those are people who have good SEO, basically. So they're website has been optimized towards Sussex accountants. Most likely they are accountants in Sussex, you know, and it's a genuine thing. These guys are in Heathfield, so that's fine. Brighton, yeah. So these are all kind of other firms of Sussex accountants who've done very well to really optimize their content towards this search, which is obviously important to them. And we're going to talk about SEO a bit later in the presentation. But very basically, I guess, the main benefit of search advertising is you get what you pay for. It's pay per click, which means when someone clicks on your ad, that's when you pay. You don't pay to show your ads. It's not like TV or newspaper or an outdoor ad that, you know, you're paying for something which maybe half the people or a certain percentage of the people, they're just not interested or it's not relevant to them. They would never buy your product or service. People are actively clicking on your ad. Therefore, you know, that they are showing interest. Not to say that every click is necessarily going to be valuable, but you're only paying for what you get. The main aim with search advertising is really to create an experience where someone searches for what you offer. They see it described in your ad, so it attracts their attention. They click and then they land on a page which is all about that service or product. That's the kind of positive experience that you always want to get and sort of strive for with your kind of PPC ads. That's just a very simple kind of example. And of course, you know, many sectors will have much longer sales cycles, you know, especially perhaps B2B companies like our accountants. It's not going to be an instant thing where you see an accountant ad and you sign up for them that day. But if you're interested, you know, you may well be researching that service. It might take you a little while to look at a few different kind of companies, maybe go and see them. But, you know, it could all start with a click on that particular ad, and that could be what sparks you to eventually do business with a particular company. Obviously, if you're buying a CD or you're buying some clothes, that might be a much quicker transaction. You search for what you're interested in, you buy it, and it's all a bit more instant. And that would really just depend on what you're advertising. The way to kind of achieve this kind of as virtuous experience I've described is to create, you know, a really well managed set of campaigns that closely matches a set of themed keywords. And the ads and the keywords go together on a particular theme, you know, a singular theme, preferably. This is kind of crucial for success because that's how Google works. You know, you'll get the best benefit from the sort of Google auction system and the algorithm. I won't go into all of the algorithm now. It's quite complicated, but basically it's based on click-through rates. So if you serve up what people are looking for, they will click on your ads and you'll sell your stuff, but also you'll benefit from having potentially slightly cheaper clicks. And also in terms of, you know, kind of ROI that you'll generate from those ads, again, serving up what people want with the right offer is what you want to do, because that will encourage people to go through and transact with you. Landing pages are really important. So it's not just about advertising. You have a fantastic advertising campaign. If your website's terrible, people aren't going to buy from you. It's just like the experience you'd have if you walk in a shop. It's not very well sort of put together, presented, it's a bit dirty. People aren't going to like that. People are just going to walk out. So same with your website. You need to have a really nice landing page, one where it's easy for people to navigate, one which clearly points people towards what you want them to do. Do you want them to buy something? Do you want them to, if you're a B2B, you might want them to sort of, you know, sign up for something, ask for more information, give up their email address, all these different actions. You want to make it very clear on that web page what you want them to do and make it easy for them to do that. There's a whole industry of people potentially dedicated to kind of subtly changing the color of a web page or increasing the size or moving the position of a certain button, because that's proved to make people purchase more. And people can do all sorts of kind of experiments on that. Google are very famous for changing the color, you know, the subtle color of blue or green or something, and then testing it out on their massive range of users and seeing which one works best. But you can do that as well on a less industrial level. The final point I think here is about speed. So any of the web designers, I know there's some web designers in the group today, will tell you that you need to have a fast website. That's particularly important when we're talking about PPC and about SEO as well. Google will penalize you if you have a slow website, both in terms of your reach for search engine optimization, for those sort of natural results I refer to, organic results, how you appear, and potentially for your ads as well. You'll get a worse kind of quality score. So how do you check that? Google has a page speed checker. It's not 100% thing, so don't completely rely on it, but go there. I'll put the link in the thing that I share later. Check out the speed of your site. The good thing about that link is that it actually gives you lots of advice about what's slowing your site down as well. It might be heavy images, things like that, things aren't loading quickly enough. Obviously, there's lots of different elements. It's one for a developer to kind of sort out, or a web design company potentially. Yeah, that can really have a big impact, a negative impact on your PPC or SEO. Moving on to SEO. So next slide. Here we go. Oh, I've got social. Oh, sorry, I've got SEO here. Skipped across that. So SEO, yeah, really important. Some people might kind of talk about SEO being kind of free traffic. That's not really free, because the efforts you have to put into it, take up time. They might involve writing or optimizing your page. Stands for search engine optimization. You might hear traffic called organic traffic. That's not because it's trying to really healthy or good for you, but just to make the distinction between organic or free traffic and traffic that you get from Google Ads, which is paid traffic. So organic, free, SEO potentially, Google Ads, is paid clicks, paid traffic. SEO is just the art of making your website as visible as possible on Google. So getting your website to appear as high, under the #1 position is often what people talk about. That may not be very achievable for everything. Obviously, really popular keywords, lots of people want to appear #1. What you're really aiming to do is have a really good website structure, quality content, and links from relevant websites. That will give you a kind of decent visibility across a range of relevant keywords. So you're looking for a kind of holistic approach. Obviously, it's lovely to be #1 or even top 5 or top 10. And you might be that for your brand name, and you might be that for certain things that you do, especially if you do something that's quite niche. But really popular big keywords, which lots of people are interested in. People are vying for that attention, and lots of people might be working on SEO for your competitors as well. It's a competitive thing. It's an ongoing process. It's very closely linked to your content strategy. Results can start to improve fairly quickly, maybe within weeks, but it's not an overnight thing or a one-off process. You need to be kind of paying attention to this over time. Your first step might well be to brainstorm a keyword list. I've got an example here, very basic example of my ideas of what accountants do. Sorry for that, any accountants that are here. But yeah, this word cloud is kind of things around accountancy that you might be interested in appearing for. And then, you come up with this keyword list, and then you need to kind of make an assessment of where you stand. Now, there's a number of sort of paid products you can use to do that. I would use something like Moz, or you might use SEMrush. They can be, I don't know, about $100 a month. And you put your keywords in there, that will tell you where you rank at the moment on Google. So this keyword's #1, this keyword's #5, this keyword's number 51, et cetera, et cetera. So you'll see all the different ranks for your keywords. That can allow you to actually get a grip on where you are and where you can improve. And it can see, what can you do? Which areas do I need to improve on? Where am I not appearing at all? Where am I quite poor? Once you've got that information, you can really look to both optimize your current website. I've got some links on how to do that in the document, and find out, and you'll do that by, getting the right page structure, using your keywords within your text, tagging up photos, that kind of thing, improving your descriptions, your meta descriptions. If you don't want to pay for tools, there is a kind of free option. You can just search on Google. So obviously you can search on Google and see where a keyword is. That's a slightly more laborious process, but obviously that is completely free, and you can work out where you stand. One really important thing to understand, and I think most people would appreciate this, but I've certainly had clients who don't appreciate that. If you don't have any content about something, if you literally don't have that word or that concept anywhere on your website, it's fairly unlikely that Google's going to rank on Google for that. So you do need to write about the things that are important to you. You generally need to have some text content about that. Videos and photos are great as well. But yeah, if you don't talk about subjects, there's no chance you're going to appear on Google for it. So bear that in mind. Things that are important to you, create really good content around those. That will help you. Also, just going back before we move on, SEO and PPC should go together. So there should be a strategy really. PPC can maybe fill in the gaps where you're poor on SEO, for example, and that can be a really good way for those two things to kind of work together, covering SEO and PPC. PPC being something you can start up straight away, set up accounts this afternoon. Quick look at social media. So just some lovely pictures of all the founders of some of the big platforms, mainly so I can show you Jack Dorsey's lovely beard. He seems to have turned into sort of billionaire hipster. Lots of white men have founded tech companies. I don't guess that's not a surprise, but there we go. Twitter. So Twitter is a really good place, I think, and I included it here because for accountancy, B2B business, I would look at probably Twitter and LinkedIn as my primary platforms, possibly use Facebook as well. Facebook being great because of its kind of local reach and because it's such a big network to use. But I'm a big fan of Twitter. I like it personally as well as for business reasons. It's a good place to build a community around your brands. It's fairly easy to build up a following quickly and for free with a bit of effort. You'll find there's a community around most sectors that you might be in. So you'll find influential people there. You find journalists, you'll find people within your industry. Twitter is no longer one of the biggest social networks necessarily, but it is influential and it is popular with prominent people. And you would have seen, obviously, the likes of Donald Trump get kicked off it. It's a place to find breaking news and chatter around things that are happening right now, entertainment, sport, politics. Obviously, there's negative side as well. There is trolling and there is abuse because it is basically a public platform. So what you write there, people are going to see. You can private message, but that's about the extent of that. It's mainly a public product. You'll see I've just highlighted a few kind of good tweets and there. Quite nice examples from local accountancy firms, Swindles and Warren House and these people. When I did this, it was the budget last week when I was putting this together. So you can see quite a few of them are tweeting about the budget. Good example, you know, getting on top of a really big thing for them. People are going to come to accountants for advice on the budget. They're getting that message out with their stuff. They're probably pre-prepared some stuff that they knew was being announced. Obviously, they've got to kind of run and create maybe some content, some tweets around it on the day. That's a great use of Twitter and a really good example of where you might use Twitter for that kind of breaking news, those kind of contemporary events, things that are happening right now. Video and images help you to stand out on Twitter because it's a lot of text. So as you go through your phone, if you have a nice video or a nice photo, that helps you stand out. Social media is not just a selling tool. It should always be social. It should be conversational and two-way. It can also be a customer service channel, so people will message you and ask you questions and potentially complain as well. So you can try and deal with that in a public way, obviously, with great care and attention. The other thing I'd say quickly on Twitter is just kind of share the love. So, you know, retweet things from friendly people or friendly businesses or partners or clients. You know, if you're a shop selling Nike trainers, makes sense to share Nike's tweets about that, about the product that you sell. They're a massive company. They've got, you know, Tiger Woods and all these famous people. Why not share their content? It'll be much better than the content you as a small shop can create. So, if, you know, if it's relevant, share it. But also try and show what's, you know, sharing stuff is great. It's good for, you know, way of finding content, but share what's unique about your business. That's what people want to see. They want to see behind the scenes. These kind of things will get the most response, you'll find. The story of your brand and the people behind the brands is what people want to see on social media. Finally, just use analytics on Twitter. There's Twitter analytics. I'll give you the link again in the document. See which tweets are performing the best, and then the best in terms of reach. So how many people have they reached, and engagement. So how many likes, retweets, replies. Engagement tends to drive a kind of network effect of your tweets and gets them to more people because more people share them and see them. See which ones stand out and then try and do more of those. So if you see that something you've done recently really stands out, was it an event, was it a little video that you created, you know, maybe do more of those because your audience is telling you what they like. So, you know, really pay some regard to that. That's important for all social platforms, for Facebook and everything you do on social. Look at the data, see what stands out to you, iterate on that, do more of that. That tells you what the audience like, not just what you think they'll like, what they actually like. Back on to the next one. So Facebook, oh, sorry, I skipped over Facebook. I don't want to skip over Facebook because it's the big one. Big social network, the biggest reach of any of its competitors, half the world's population are Facebook users. Not everyone loves Facebook, but you can't really ignore it in terms of marketing. Also owns Instagram, which it bought in 2012 for about $1 billion. It's the second most popular social network now with consumers. It's really grown and overtaken Twitter, which was probably second for a while. They also own WhatsApp and have Facebook Messenger. So they have a whole suite of tools and social networks that you can engage with, and lots of people do. It's probably not the obvious choice for accountants. I wouldn't say it's the first choice. And I think a lot of traditional companies, maybe like lawyers or accountants, might think, well, we won't be on Facebook. That doesn't make any sense. But it is very good for reaching people locally. So again, if you're a small chain of accountants that I'm kind of imagining today, it would make sense for you to kind of reach into your local community via Facebook. And people are people, you know, whether you're a business person or whatever, an entrepreneur, you will be on Facebook probably personally. So there's no reason why you can't try and reach people that way. It's good for image and video. It's often rewards kind of emotional and storytelling type of content. People are, just remember that originally people are there to kind of see what their friends are doing and their relatives. I mean, obviously there's lots of other things that Facebook does now, but that is the original kind of content that's going to be there. It's great for events, set up events. You can create a buzz around an event. You know, this event could have been listed on Facebook potentially. It's really good for customer service as well. So people will contact you on Messenger, or if WhatsApp can be integrated with your page. So again, be responsive. They're going to, you know, treat that as if someone's ringing you up in the office. You know, it's important to get back to them. Don't just leave it for several days. And then really the other thing to note, I suppose, at the moment is that it's being quite tightly integrated with e-commerce. So Shopify, for example, has recently kind of integrated with Facebook and is now able to buy things through your Facebook feed and through Instagram. Just a few more nice examples here, again, for local accountants. Nice images, nice updates about the budget. You can write a bit more on Facebook, so it's good for that, whereas Twitter's very short. One other recommendation perhaps would be to use an editorial calendar, so get all your events in the calendar so you can plan stuff around them. That means you can make the most out of things, so don't just on the day, oh my God, we're doing something important, let's tweet about it, let's write about it on Facebook. Have a whole series of things leading up to that event. Talk about the event afterwards if you've got it planned in your diary. Have, you know, Halloween and Mother's Day if you're a florist. Mother's Day is important. Halloween if you sell costumes. Industry conferences, all that kind of stuff. Things that your leadership's doing. Webinars, all that sort of thing. Get that in the diary. Finally, for Facebook, you know, it's quite hard. If you've got a Facebook page, you'll know it's quite hard to get organic reach. You know, if you post something, does maybe 10% of the people you have following you see it? A lot of people will see it primarily as a paid platform these days, because Facebook's been kind of dialing down the organic reach in favor of you paying them, and they're obviously a business, a very successful one. Simple advertising via boosting posts, or there is a more advanced option that I would potentially use for clients called Facebook Ads Manager. I've again dropped some links to some training that you can do to understand how to use that more. You would use that also to advertise on Instagram. So both places you would find through Ads Manager. Finally, I'm just going to skip over LinkedIn a little bit because I realize I'm going over time. Finally, LinkedIn, great place for B2B. Simple advice for LinkedIn. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but fill out your profile, make it as complete as possible. I've used an example of someone who works for LinkedIn here. I'll use their page. Make it as complete as possible. Think about keywords. So it's all about keywords, like SEO. Here are the keywords that are important to you. Get those in your profile. Use your leadership. They're really important. So personal profiles tend to have a lot more reach. A lot more people are connected to you personally than potentially to your company page. Put those people all together. It's a much bigger network than you would have on a company page, often unless you're a really famous company. So get all your leadership to get involved with LinkedIn, maybe even take control of their profiles if they'll let you, and make them really nice and branded. So that is probably the most important thing. You can also use it obviously for sales and for recruitment. So it's not just about being a social network. If you advertise on LinkedIn, it has all the kind of things and details about you from a business perspective that Facebook would have. It can be quite expensive, but it's a really good way to reach people in a certain niche, in a certain sector for a certain job title. So it's a great kind of B2B tool. And then finally, on the last slide, just going to very briefly talk about video. Talked about different platforms and places to advertise or put your content. Video kind of obviously overreaches everything, so you can put a video on Facebook. These are examples from YouTube. YouTube is obviously the biggest video destination. Again, on the accountancy theme, I've taken quite a nice channel from the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales. They've got lovely videos about how to be an accountant, all the kind of qualifications that they do. Young accountants on the right there, sort of talking about what their career was like, how they came into accountancy, what it's like to work in London. Really nice examples of good content. Build up a community around your videos with great content. Claire, I'm sure, will support this. Create regular video content and people will come to you. If you build up a community on YouTube, for example, if you have 1,000 followers, well, that's 1,000 people that see every piece of content that you create because they get an email about it. So you could almost have, 400 views before you even start promoting it or doing anything else with your videos. So video is great. Social media loves videos, so make videos. I've gone over time, so I'm just going to hand over now to Katie. Katie, I've talked a lot about quality content. Katie is obviously a natural purveyor and creator of really good quality content. So I'll hand over to her now.
Hi, thanks, Barney. And thank you for walking us through social media and digital advertising. I'm now going to take the reins over and talk about two other ways of driving leads for your business online, and that is through organic and earned content. As Barney said, this is a very top-line overview, so I'm going to whiz through my 15 years experience in about 15 minutes. If anyone would like a follow-up conversation, please do drop me a line. Everything I'm going to speak about today is actionable. So although it won't take up too much money, it will take up some time, which is arguably more expensive if you own a small business. So I'm going to try and focus on easy wins for SMEs. I'm going to continue the accountancy theme through some of my examples, just so you can see how a service business would work. But this also does apply to product-based businesses as well. Barney is controlling the slides, so apologies for sounding in advance for sounding like Chris Whitty, but can I have my next slide, please, Barney? Thanks. So yes, as I said, I'm talking about organic and earned content. So these two, oh, there's a dog somewhere. So if you imagine your website as a shop window, and you can't just sit there and wait for people to come into your business, you've got to drive that footfall and make sure people are aware that you exist. You also need to remember the 7 touch point rule of sales, so in consumer marketing and sales. So normally a consumer will come into contact with your business at least 7 times before making a purchase. It's slightly less for B2B, but so the whole idea here is that you need to make sure that people can see you and are aware of your business in more than just one place. So if you've got your social media accounts down and you've got your digital advertising, your PPC and SEO, you also need to make sure you're generating that organic and earned content as a benefit of driving leads to your business, and again keeping them into your website. So just to go through quickly the definitions: organic content or organic media is anything that you create, so you own it, you create it. I'll give you some examples later on. And earned is what a lot of people will think of as PR, so anything where anybody is talking about you. It's really important that we just define that PR is not just press releases. PR doesn't stand for press releases. PR stands for public relations, which is any type of content that you have with your business has with the outside world. So earned content is a part of PR, and is a really important part of PR, especially when it comes down to driving traffic in a digital environment. But I'll come on to that a bit later. The benefits, there's loads of benefits, but one of the things that we're finding at the moment is about cut through. So there's been a lot of competition, a lot of new SMEs starting in the market in the last 12 months due to COVID. It's quite a competitive market, we're finding. So it's really important to get your earned and organic content strategy right to achieve that cut through for the noise. Anybody can add a Google Ads campaign, anybody can add a PPC campaign. So how do you just give your business credibility, and how do you stand out from the crowd, and how do you get people to make that purchasing decision? And for me, I believe that organic and earned content creates conversions from those digital leads. Next slide, please. Thanks. So getting to grips with organic content, as I said, there's lots of different types of organic content, and it's anything that you earn, so you own and you create. So that can be blogs, press releases, e-guides, listicles are really popular. So I've got 3 examples here of organic content that I found on accountants' websites. So again, 10 things your accountant will do for your business. So those 10 things, 5 things, we've all seen them here, there and everywhere. They are called listicles. They're really short pieces of content. I would recommend 400 words to 600 words max. People don't digest thousands and thousands and thousands of words. If you are going to have something that's a little bit longer, think about doing it as a downloadable e-guide. You want to make sure that all of your content that is sizable is gated. So that means it's behind a data wall, so you can capture those leads as they're coming in and run an email marketing campaign. That's a bit more technical, so I won't go into too much of that at the moment, but really this is just demonstrating your authority. You also have to be conscious of I myself have been guilty of this, ploughing lots and lots of budget into a digital advertising campaign to drive that traffic to your website, but not actually driving it to the right pages that convert it into leads. And organic content will really help you do this. It will also, of course, is important for your SEO, as Barney mentioned. It's really important to demonstrate to the search engines that you're a business that knows what it's talking about, and that you're an authoritative figure. So there's a few rules that we say, next slide please. A few rules that we sort of live and die by when it comes to organic content are the non-negotiables for us. So it must be relevant, topical and interesting. So if you're a marketing business, you want to talk about the latest things that are going on in marketing, what we don't want to do is give people teeth cleaning advice, because that's just not relevant to us. It's not going to help with organic SEO, and it's just going to turn off potential customers. You also need to understand your customers and understand why they're coming to your website. So for those businesses that have really invested time in understanding who their target audiences are, you can then answer those challenges. There's a website called Answer the Public, which is a really good platform to be able to put in what your business is about and what topic you're talking about, and it will show you what people are Googling about that topic. So that will help you create some of that organic content. You demonstrate your knowledge. Bit of basics here. You need to make sure it's free from typos, grammatical errors. Don't get too political. You need to demonstrate your business, not your personal thoughts. So just make sure you're putting your business out there. Again, include keywords, which Barney went through. Follow the 80-20 rule. So 80% value, 20% sales. Don't just start selling. People will turn people off straight away. You need to, again, demonstrate that knowledge. Make sure you include a call to action at the bottom. So many people write a great, fabulous blog, and then people go, okay, that was nice, and then bounce out of your website. I also think it's really important to include a date and author. It gives a bit of personality, but it's also really important in terms of news functionality and showing up in the news section of Google, but also it will show people why you were commenting. So if they find your content much later, they know that there might be an updated version and or it was relevant at that time. So I always encourage people to include a date and author on their pieces, and lots of website platforms do that for you automatically. Next slide, please. So the golden ticket, a lot of people call earned media the golden ticket. So advertising is what you pay for and publicity is what you pray for, Wordsworth said. But actually publicity is something you don't have to pray for it, but you do have to work quite hard to get it. So PR is important. A lot of people don't invest in PR, but we believe it's really important because it helps build trust in your business. There's nothing like somebody else writing about how amazing your business is for people to actually convert into sales. We all know that referrals are really important for growing our business for most businesses, and that's where for us and for a lot of businesses I know in the local area get most of their attention. So think of your big PR strategy as just a bigger referral campaign. Again, it increases your credibility, drives traffic to your website, creates those all-important authentic backlinks. So other people will be linking to your website, which is really important for your SEO, and demonstrates brand awareness. So if I go to my next slide, please. So I've given 3 examples here of small accountancy firms who actually managed to get some really good press coverage. So, and it's really important to go for B2B and local press as well. So don't just think about national. So many people contact us and they say, right, I want to be on BBC Breakfast. Well, so do I, but you don't just get to be on BBC Breakfast. You have to build up a profile of you and your business and demonstrate why you're an authority. And actually, some of the B2B and local press is just as valuable as being on some of the nationals. So really think about where to place your press. It's much easier to get into a B2B title and into a local magazine than it is to get into onto the nationals. So if you're thinking about your valuable time, I would really think about starting to create press lists, blogs and media outlets in those 2 fields first. I think it does take a lot of time as well, and you've got to have the right angle and think about your story. What have you got to add that other businesses might not be able to? The great thing about digital and the digital world we live in is there's many more opportunities to get that coverage. So don't worry about necessarily being in a printed paper or printed magazine, digital advertising, digital PR is just as valuable, if not more importantly, because they can often include the backlink to your website. So you're more likely to get that traffic of people going, oh, that was really interesting. I'd like to find out more about that person. Next slide, please. So just a few really top line tips for your successful approach to PR and earned media. You've got to find out what your USP is, and not just your USP of your business, but your USP of you. So is it, have you sort of, has your business come out of sort of risen from the ashes? Is it from experience? What's really unique? Are you fully sustainable? Are you BCERT qualified? And are you the only BCERT corp in your business, in your industry? You know, that, and do you promote that? Do you hire in a specific way? Think about what your uniqueness is about your business. Be true to yourself. There's nothing like not being authentic. You'll get found out. Also, you don't get to sign off what the editors and the journalists write about you, so they'll sniff it out straight away, and they'll find it anyway. So don't try and hide anything. Be your true, authentic brand self. Make sure you think beyond the column inches. So if there's opportunities to be on a Meet the Expert session in Hayward Heath Business Association, or be part of podcasts or webinars, normally there's wraparound campaigns to that you can get involved in, which will also boost your online presence. Suitable imagery, always logos and headshots, good headshots. There's lots of photographers at the HHBA that do this really, really well. Lots of members that you can talk to. They're really important to get the right headshot and to send that with any of your press. You'll need to keep pitching. So don't just send one email and think that that's it, you're done. You're going to need to be putting pitches out to B2B and local press. Look at what they're reading, and so look at what they're printing and what they're talking about, and tailor your pitch to why you and your business can add value to their readers and what you've got to say. A really good tip is to share any PR and content, whether that's organic or earned. PR your PR, is what we say. So make sure that you're sharing it on your social media. It really goes down well if you thank the editor as well, and show up, engage with that, and respond to your piece. So if you get a piece that's printed featured on a magazine website, share it, respond to anybody who comments. It's a really good opportunity, and you can really maximize it. So many people we see just let it out into the ether and don't share it with their own network, but there could be somebody in your network that's ready to purchase from you that just needs to see that one piece and go, yeah, do you know what, actually they do know what they're talking about. That's the 7th point of contact. That's the 7th conversion that they need to actually make that purchase from you. So the biggest thing is not to look at what the journalists and editors can give you, but what value you have to them. So you need to turn up and say, this is what I have for you. This is what makes me stand out. And again, go for that B2B and local press. That's our biggest recommendations. That's where you'll see the wins. Next slide, please. One thing that I haven't talked about, because obviously we're pressed for time, but you'll need to think about turning all that traffic, all that lovely traffic that you're getting from all of your Google ads and social and earned media and organic media. You need to think about how you're going to turn that into leads, and how you're going to get people to actually pick up the phone and engage with your business or make a purchase. So whether that be incentivized call to actions and offers, whether that's getting people to sign up to your newsletter and then doing an email campaign to them, whether that's special promotions or lead magnets. So again, give us your email address and you'll be able to download this e-guide or download this coupon. It's all about reducing that bounce rate. So think about when people are in your website, again, this is sort of repeating what Barney said, but when people are in your website, what does their journey look like when they're in their website, and how do you get them to make that contact with you? The longer they're in your website, the more likely they are to make that positive purchasing decision. So think about where you want them to go after you've put all this lovely organic and earned media. I should just say as well that if you do send a piece to the press, make sure it's published on the press website first before you put it onto your own website. If you do put it onto your own website, you need to make sure that you add a line that says something originally created for Mid Sussex News or originally created for Accountancy News. Journalists don't like it when you release their content ahead of when they're due to release it. They want unique content for their website. So just be aware of that. I think that's everything from me. One thing I should say, HHBA members can also submit news to Sue. So local websites and networks such as the HHBA are a really good opportunity, especially if you're a member. It's already included part of your membership, and it's a really good opportunity for you to get access to your local community. So make sure you submit it to Sue, and she can help get your business seen in your local network. So yeah, so that is everything from me now. I think we've only got a short period of time for questions.
Oh, that was amazing, Barney and Katie. I kind of, yeah, big round of applause. Mind completely blown for a little bit, probably in like volume, like so much to do. Perfectly pitched, I think, for this audience actually as well. Hopefully everybody agrees as well. I think that was just excellent. So grateful for brilliant content. That's amazing. And right at the very beginning, do you know, on my list of things to do here, I've got Google My Business was at the top of my things to do. So that's quite easy. I've already now struck something off my list. That's incredible. Okay, I have a question, and I'm going to go first because I'm just going to abuse my position. Scheduling tools. What would you recommend for using to schedule posts?
I'll go for this one. I think, well, one thing I was discussing actually with Sue earlier is that you may not realize that some of the popular networks you use have their own. So Twitter has only had its own scheduling probably for about a year or 6 months to a year. You can schedule stuff with Facebook. LinkedIn is a bit of a bugbear. It doesn't have scheduling in LinkedIn, which is a bit annoying. But I'm sure they'll get there eventually. I think Hootsuite is pretty good. I've used Sprout Social. I think a lot of it depends on how much you want to pay. Also, it depends on how much you're going to use it. So all these things get more expensive as you get more licenses. If you've got a small company or a bigger company, it starts to get expensive. It's just the one of you. It could even be free for maybe a limited number of profiles. So they're all fairly similar. Some of them are quite good as well. Sprout Social is quite nice because it brings all the stats together. So you could see your kind of social media profile in one place, which is nice because otherwise you're
So what was that one? I missed that name. Sorry, say it again.
Sprout Social, like Brussels sprout.
Sprout Social.
I think that's, I don't know how much you can do with it for free, but it's quite nice. It does bring all the stats together. Okay. Otherwise, you're going in between to see your kind of reach on Facebook, your reach on Twitter, on LinkedIn. So that's quite nice, and it's good if you're reporting to someone else again in a bigger company. But yeah, I mean, do it natively as well. So if you and one thing I would say also about scheduling tools is don't be lazy. Don't just put the same message on every social platform. You can do that with scheduling tools, but it's not very good because obviously they're all different. So on Instagram, you're going to use a photo and some tags. On Twitter, you're going to use a short message. On LinkedIn, you're going to write a much longer message potentially. Facebook, somewhere in between. So you can do the same thing. So there's no worries about sharing the same content across networks, but just adapt it for the network. So you have, you're adapting to what the audience are there to what they expect. Don't just sling out the same message to every network.
Mm-hmm. I think on that as well, I think if you're social, one of the things you need to be careful of is that you don't just go through the national days and start being like, well, it's National Avocado Day and I'm going to post about National Avocado Day. If that's not relevant for your industry, don't talk about it. Don't just add to the noise because people will just start turning off your social media. So it's really important that you schedule activity, but just be careful, make sure it's all relevant to what you and relevant and concise and timely.
Right, thanks. I'll let someone else get a word in edgeways. Does anyone else literally physically put your hand up and then I can see who has a question? Well, that's assuming you've got your camera on. I can't see the people who haven't. Anybody got another question? Go. Is it Mike?
Mark's got one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi there. Thanks to both speakers. I think it's been really, really useful content. Thank you. I had one specific question around going right back to the start around reviews. Do you have any guidelines or recommendations about responding to reviews, positive and negative?
Yeah, I mean, I think my main advice would be to respond. So I think we've all seen examples of people, who've complained and some really horrible complaints, sometimes unjustified complaints. I think the best thing you can do with something like that is just kind of come back to them and explain what the situation was. Obviously, don't be passive aggressive and have a go at them. Just be really kind of take the high ground. I think people can appreciate that. If you're a customer, sometimes things go wrong. Sometimes maybe the customer is obviously exaggerating it and doing it for effect or whatever reason. You know, there could even be a competitor or something. But yeah, just always be really polite. It's in public, just like you would be if someone came to your shop and complained to you. You wouldn't just like start having a go at them. So customers always right to drop that mantra online. And also don't just do it for negative stuff. The people you quite often see, I think it's quite good when people say something really nice, then respond to them, because the people really appreciate that. Someone says, I've had a lovely Mother's Day lunch at your restaurant. So, oh, it was really great to see you, especially if you can remember it. It was really great to see you. Love to see you again. That's a really nice response and creates an even more positive experience for that person. So always address it. Don't just leave it. People will see it. I think people are fairly sensible. So if they see, Dave's restaurant has got 80 really amazing results for reviews, and there's 2 kind of bad ones, well, what do they think? They think it's a good restaurant. So don't worry about people who are kind of extremists and that stuff, because what can you do?
Great.
Thank you.
Wow. I reckon we have time for one more. Mark, you got your hand up first.
Thanks, Claire. Yeah, so a question that Barney sort of started answering a little bit about the importance of the website itself with page speed and that sort of thing. How much does the design and the overall kind of user experience of the site actually directly impact your search results and the effectiveness of your ads as well?
Yeah, and definitely with ads. I didn't get into all the deep and dark places of quality score and the Google algorithm, but there is this thing called quality score that's mainly made up of your click-through rate, which is how often your ad is clicked compared to how many times it's shown, sort of a percentage. But landing page quality is part of Google's quality score. So there's a small amount of is landing page quality. Google doesn't obviously personally go around looking at your website and saying whether it's good or bad, but it does have automated ways to see the quality of that, and obviously it's very good at doing that through what it does on an SEO side of the business. So yeah, so it is important. So we'll be looking to see. Google has to fight against people sort of spamming SEO, kind of black hat techniques you might call them. So that's a constant war of attrition with people trying to kind of use bad techniques. So it's always looking to see, has lots of machine learning to understand what are good websites and what are bad. Clear, nice design, easy navigation. It's all really about, Google's a very customer focused company like Amazon. It's all about the user experience. Google wants people to get somewhere quickly away from their website onto your website, and it wants them to have a good experience. So creating that good experience, make it easy to buy. That's the main thing you can do. You can have amazing ad campaigns, amazing PR. If you don't make it easy to buy on your website, it's all wasted. So really focus on the website first. If people come to me and say, I want to do Google ads or paid social, and I think they've got a rubbish website, I will tell them and say, go away and make your website a lot better. Go and talk to Mark. So yeah, there's no point. You'll be wasting your money, and you'll be affecting my ability to drive sales for them will be affected by you having a poor website. And it's better to be honest about it. So yeah, definitely get the website up first, but don't forget the marketing, because you can have the best website in the world and no one's going to have heard of it unless you have good SEO, you have good content via PR, or you have advertising, all 3 preferably.
And thanks, Katie. Really great presentation.
Yeah, I have to say, tremendous quality. Actually, volume and quality was excellent, and I like to think this is all such brilliant content to have within your HHBA membership. To be honest, this is why you're a member. You can come and have brilliant meetings like this, and obviously you can now hire Barney and Katie to actually do it for you, because we don't actually have the time, because that really is kind of frankly the whole point. So I'm going to draw this meeting to an end. Thank you so much, Barney and Katie. Big round of applause for me, please.